This is the ASUREI team with our solar thermal failure prediction project. I'm Wade Hampton with Ryann-Rebecca, Montgomery, and Brendan Sullivan. Some organizational background. The Appalachian State University Renewable Energy Initiative works to reduce the carbon footprint of ASU and to increase the use of renewable sources. The funding from it comes from a $5 student fee that was voted in a couple of years ago, and one of the big projects they have done is the PSU solar thermal system. The system consists of 42 glass plate solar collectors that heat up to 180 degrees, and it distributes throughout the Plymouth Student Union building, or it stores it in 3 400-gallon tanks. The business understanding of what we're trying to do is ensure the solar thermal system is operating properly. We're trying to help maintain upkeep of the system by catching small issues before they become larger and to prevent excess energy loss. So what I'd like to do now is just kind of break down how the system works. These are the solar panels that are on top of the student union. The water is moving along a pipe that you can see below the panels. It's moving from left to right, but along the way it's actually flowing from the bottom of each of these rectangle panels from the bottom to the top, and then starts and the next one flows from the bottom to the top, and all of this is to try to heat it up to 180 degrees. The water flowing through the system is a mix of water and some effluents. So the water flowing through the system at this point is not potable. It's actually just heating up this liquid mixture to be used inside of these tanks. These are the tanks. They're 3 in a row. Inside of each of the tanks is a spiral copper tubing, and going through that spiral copper tubing is the water being heated. So you have cold water going in. Each of these tanks is filled with the liquid mixture that's being heated to 180 degrees. As the actual potable water goes through the system, it comes out the other side after having been heated. At this point, it moves into this electric water tank where it's just being held until one of the sinks in the building, one of the showers in the building turns on. Sometimes the water is not heated enough for usage just by the thermal system alone. In that case, this blue box is the steam electric system, and the steam electric system would supplement if the solar panels are not heating enough due to a low temperature or low radiance at the time.
So the problem understanding, currently the system cannot distinguish between normal usage, which waxes and wanes in the actual usage. So we would like to be able to flag when there's a problem versus when people are just not using the system. And so possible malfunctions include the pump failing, whether it stops working or is left on continuously, pipe leakage, or irradiance constraints. In the past, when they've had an issue, the problems were not handled in a timely manner, which just makes the problem worse. So our data, we actually have data going back about a year and a half, and it's collected in 15-minute time steps. And this includes the flow rate and the change in temperature and the irradiance collected, which is actually collected by the solar panels on the School of Education. But those panels are very similar to our system. So the graph you see over here, where there's no data, it's because the flow meter was actually not currently on. So one of the common problems that we've seen is if there's a leak in the building, then the change in temperature will steadily decrease with smaller and smaller peaks, while the flow actually increases because of the excess water, but the energy will remain constant. And so if we see this pattern, then it's a very good indication that there's probably a leak. So other common problems is that if the pump is never turned off, then the water will circulate continuously. Or if the pump has been disconnected, then it will stop pumping water, and so will reduce the hot water being used. And then by the solar panels, the pipes are wrapped in a very shiny insulation, which the birds will peck at. So if they peck enough of it off, then we will have an energy loss through the lack of insulation. So data is actually collected through multiple different meters, including a flow meter and various temperature gauges. And so to compile it, it's initially connected by the BTU meter and then sent to a data acquisition server, which is forwarded to the ASU server as a CSV value. And Patrick, our liaison through REI, runs a script to concatenate each line into a spreadsheet. And so we've taken that spreadsheet and broken down some of the variables that are combined in one column, and we've given them their own column, and then unified the various units.
Challenges. So some of the remaining challenges that we have in continuing and completing our project are proving the efficiency of the model. So our data is about a year and a half worth of data taken in 15-minute intervals each day. So we need to decide, how many of those data points are we going to actually use? Are we going to use every 15 minutes? Are we going to use daily? Are we going to use hourly? We'll probably test a few different models. And then once we've done that, we can determine the size of our training and test system of the historical data. And then we'll have to, once the model's fitted, we can then again test that on new additional data that comes up in the real world. The spreadsheets are updated daily. Again, changing response to being based on new alert. So currently, the response to maintenance issues are done by different individuals. It can be difficult depending on the building to get the building managers to respond to apparent issues. And often, making it so that the alert system is something that can be agreed upon and followed by the different building managers, and getting them to utilize it, and actually, seeing that when there's a problem from our alert system, accepting the fact that they need to look into it, they need to see if something needs to be fixed. So a systematic response to mechanical issues rather than just sort of a individual fly-by-night response to them. Going off of that, getting agreement on the best practices, getting agreement between the different parties that will be impacted by the model and by its predictions to agree on how best to utilize it and respond to the alerts that it makes. Another challenge that we've been facing is scope creep. So as we've explored the background and learned more about the system and function, it's a complicated system, and we are continually learning new elements that we could potentially incorporate into a model. The difficulty is that, the more complicated a model is, sometimes the more difficult it can be to get accurate results and predictions from it. Overfitting or just having too wide of a scope and trying to do too much and spread ourselves too thin is definitely something that we're worried about. So we're constantly having to sort of prune and temper back our enthusiasm for saying, oh, we should add this, oh, we should add that, and just really focus on a set of most important variables and parts of the system that we can look for to really, make something that will have a positive impact on how we can upkeep the system and keep it functioning. So for best practices, we need to find a way to foster cooperation among all parties that are responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the system. In the past, the different organizations on campus, the different building managers have had varying levels of buy-in to the success of REI. So for instance, the Plymouth Student Union, where we are initially working on a model, has largely been pretty good, pretty amenable about responding to issues with the system when REI reports them based on the data. However, some of the other buildings have different standards of when to act. Several times the REI's approached them and said, hey, there's a problem, there's a leak, and they've in those moments denied him, said no, there's not a leak, until the problem became so bad that it was undeniable that in fact damage had occurred. Best practices, we want to establish a clear plan of action for responding when the system designates that it's their alert. We can speak to the people that run the PSU about that, and since they've been helpful, and hopefully ask them what would work best for them to formulate a plan. And then if we expand our model to different buildings and different systems, then the groups that run those buildings will have input on creating their own respective rules. That way we can eliminate disagreement around the responsibilities, and we have a step in place, an action plan in place for how to respond to the system so that there's not politics involved in getting things fixed. For the pending steps for our project, we need to obviously train and test our models. We're looking to probably use different interval periods in the training and testing the models. For instance, perhaps we will have one for every 15 minutes, every hour, one every day. That way we can see which ones come out with the optimum amount of being able to keep up with problems as they arise, but also reducing the amount of false positives and negatives. In terms of implementing the alert system, our liaison has confirmed in fact that we do have the ability to install our scripts on the server, so we should be able to use R to implement the alert system. REI prefers an email alert system, so we're looking in a way that it'll send emails to REI to notify them when the model flags potential issues. So that's it for our update. I just want to thank everyone who gave input on our initial proposal, and just ask that, we definitely look forward to hearing your input currently on the midterm. If anyone has any advice or ideas for how we can improve and move forward with our model, that would definitely be valuable to us. Also wanted to say that we definitely enjoy watching the other videos and learning about all the interesting projects that everyone's working on, and we look forward to seeing how everyone's progress has come since the beginning of the semester. Thank you. Bye.